Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. What we're going to be looking at today is our top teams that need to be on upset alert for this week. We will be looking over our top 25. There's 7 games that specifically stood out to me where the high-ranked team needs to be on potential upset alert for week 6 of the 2024 college football season. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, drop it below and I will make sure to respond every week. We go over every single college football game, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. We break down the money lines, the spreads, the over-unders. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you can follow along with us this year. So let's go ahead and get started looking at our week 6 potential teams, potential games where the team needs to be on upset alert. The very first one that stood out to me is one of our Friday night games on Fox Sports 1 at 9 p.m. We have 3-1 Syracuse playing number 25 UNLV. Welcome to the top 25 UNLV. They're 4-0. They have a 79.4% chance to win this game. They are the high-ranked team. They are the favorite team, 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 57.5. When you're looking at Syracuse, Kyle McCord is the Syracuse Orange quarterback, the same guy that was the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes last year, and they are slinging the ball up and down the field, passing the ball. They have a top 5 passing attack right now. They're averaging 33.8 points a game. They're throwing for 392.8 yards per game. They're running for 102.8, so they're very pass-heavy focused. If they get the passing game going, this could obviously be a long night for UNLV, and their defense is giving up 22.5. The reason UNLV is the underdog, though, is the whole quarterback fiasco situation. Sluka was their star quarterback up till last week. He's the one that had the NIL issue where he left because he said that the team didn't pay him $100,000, and he's going into the transfer portal now starting next season. He's gone. He was obviously the leading passer. He was also the leading rusher through the first 3 games, closing in on 400 rushing yards. He left, and they brought in Williams, who was the transfer portal quarterback backup, had not played at the FBS level yet. They were playing Fresno State last week, and he actually had a pretty good game. He threw for 189 yards, ran for 118 yards. That's great. They curb stomped Fresno State. However, we've only seen play 1 game at the FBS level. That's not enough for me to have full faith here that he will be able to do that versus a Power 4 team. But overall, they averaged 45.3 game. They passed for 154.8, very run heavy, 283 yards per game, solid defensive play, giving up 13.8, but they haven't played a passing attack quite like the Orange yet. I could easily see the Orange winning this game, would not be surprised at all, but I think UNLV's overall run game could make the difference. But them having a quarterback we've only seen play once scares me. I don't want anything to do with betting this game, but I'm picking UNLV to avoid the upset, win this game just barely, 31-27. The next game we're going to be looking at is we're now moving on to Saturday at 12 p.m. on ABC. Number 9, Missouri, 4-0 undefeated versus number 25, Texas A&M Aggies sitting at 4-1. Mizzou has a 51.9% chance to win this game, but they're actually the Vegas underdogs. 2.5-point underdogs. The over-under here is 48.5. I've been saying the whole season, Missouri is not a top 10 team. They're a very good team, a top 15 team, but they're not top 10. Just to show you how much they're not a top 10 worthy team, they're ranked number 9 right now, and they're favored to lose by Vegas to the Aggies, who are number 25. They, as the number 9 team, should not be the underdogs here, but they are. If they lose, that's an upset because they're a top 10 team, but I could see the Aggies going down to Missouri because I don't necessarily have faith in the Aggies either. For Missouri, we know that they're a well-coached team. We know that they're a top 20 roster. They had last season a top 20 offense, a top 25 defense, and this season they're playing well on both sides, not as efficient on offense scoring the ball, but they are averaging 36.5 per game. They're throwing for 270.3. They're running for 206.5, and their defense having solid play, only giving up 12 per game. They have Cook. They have Noel. They have Weiss Jr. They have Burden. They have the better playmakers on the squad right now, but the Aggies have the number 7 overall roster according to ESPN. Mike Elko is the new coach. He has a new scheme coming in here. He's trying to rebuild this roster in his image. They lost their starting quarterback, Connor Wegman, but that was actually probably a blessing because he was playing pretty bad. They brought in Reed as the quarterback. He's been lighting things up, specifically running the ball. The guy can throw, but this is a very physical running team. They love to line up and beat you in the trenches right now. They're averaging 29 a game, 170.2 through the air, 231.6 on the ground. Solid defensive play, only giving up 18 points per game. I think if the Aggies win this game, it's because they dominated the trenches running the ball. But I think Mizzou and Cook, if it comes down to a final play in the fourth quarter, he could make the difference here. I have Missouri squeaking out another win. They barely beat the last couple teams they played, barely beat Boston College, barely beat Vanderbilt. They haven't played very good competition, and they've been barely beating them. That's why no one has confidence in them. But I think that continues this week. They beat the Aggies 24-21. But you got to watch this game because I would not be surprised if the Aggies won either. The next one we're looking at 12 p.m. on ESPN, 4-1 SMU Mustangs versus number 22 Louisville, 3-1 Louisville. A 67.1% chance to win this game, 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 56.5 for Louisville. The reason they're the upset is because they're playing a team that can score the ball blow for blow with them right now. SMU, Rhett Lashley's team, they replaced Preston Stone as the quarterback with Jennings, and they've hit the ground running. They're averaging 42.2 per game. They're throwing for 222. They're running for 206. Solid defensive play. They're only giving up 21.4. But the thing that stands out about them is they're new to the ACC. They want a ranked ACC win to let the whole conference know that they're here. This is a very talented team, very under-the-radar team. I would not want to play them on any given Saturday because they can score. When you play a team that can score, they can go with you blow for blow. If they have the ball last, they can win the game. But Louisville, very talented team. Jeff Brom is one of the best adapters to his roster. So he knows how to work the portal, but he adapts his play calling and his scheme to the playmakers and the talent that he has on the roster at the given time. This is a very talented team. They almost beat Notre Dame last week. They lost that game, one possession loss, but they showed they can go up against a top 10 physical defense and they can score on them at will. Louisville right now, they're averaging 41.5. They're throwing for 305.5. They're running for 178.5. They're only giving up 16 points a game. This is a balanced team. This is a team that can score. This is a team that can play defense. I have Louisville winning this one 34-30, but a very close game, a one-possession game. Louisville has to make sure they have the ball last. Next game we're going to look at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 12, Ole Miss, 4-1 versus 3-1 South Carolina Gamecocks. Right now, Ole Miss has a 75.4% chance to win this game. They are 9-point favorites. The over-under is 53.5. The reason Ole Miss needs to be on upset alert is because they're coming off of a loss to Kentucky at home. That's a game they should have won, could have won, but they lost it. How does Ole Miss respond? They're on the road now. They just had a emotional loss. Does the team rally around Lane Kiffin? Does he get them back on track? How does Jackson Dart respond? He did not have his best game this past weekend. He was a Heisman hopeful. He still can be this season. They need to get things back on track. If they win this game convincingly, they could find themselves back in the top 10 next week. They put everything into the transfer portal, brought in the number one transfer portal class, and it is a talented team. They have Jackson Dart. They have Parrish. They have Trey Harris. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball, and they're playing defense. Right now, they're averaging 47.4 points a game, throwing for 401.2. I'm pretty sure that's number one in the country. They're running for 216.8, and they're only giving up 8.4 points per game. Very talented team. But South Carolina, under Beamer, has made a living off of upsetting top 10 teams. They almost upset LSU this year. Should have won that game. 2 years ago, they upset a top 10 Clemson team. They upset a top 10 Tennessee team. If they come into South Carolina not prepared to play, sleeping on them, the Gamecocks will beat you. Right now, they're averaging 34.3 points a game, throwing for 208.8, running for 192.3, only giving up 17. This is a very talented team. You have to take them serious as we're getting into SEC play. Don't get caught looking at the next week or you'll get upset. But I have Ole Miss winning this game convincingly, 38-21. But I'm banking on Lane Kiffin showing up, getting his team back on track. Next game at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Number 4 undefeated Tennessee Volunteers 4-0 versus 3-2 Arkansas Razorbacks. Right now, Tennessee has an 82.2% chance to win this game. 13.5-point favorites, over under 56.5. You're probably looking at this game with them being favored by basically 14 and saying, why is Tennessee on upset alert? The reason it is, they're coming off the bye week and they haven't really been tested yet this season. They played a bunch of scrubs. They curb stomped them. They played Oklahoma, who's not a good team, but they're decent. And it was a very close team, not the best performance from the offense. I'm not startled by that in any way whatsoever. We're getting deeper into SEC play. So the level of competition should be getting more difficult every single week. How did Josh Heupel work on that bye week? We know he's one of the best offensive minds in all of college football, and they have the number one offense. And to me, it's not even close. Right now, they're averaging 54 points a game, and we're in week 6. That is crazy. They're throwing for 279.5. They're running for 290. Extremely balanced. They have Nico. They have Samson. They have Squirrel White. They can beat you multiple ways, but their defense is only giving up 7 points a game. Not only are they the number one offense, they have a top 5 defense in the nation, and they also have a top 10 defense in sacks. They get pressure, they get after it, they can score. But Arkansas is actually a really good team. They could be undefeated right now had they beaten Oklahoma State. They should have beaten them, but they lost that game. But this is a team, if you're just like the Gamecocks game, if you're not taking them seriously, looking at the next week, they could catch you because this team is physical. They can score. Sam Pittman was on the hot seat. This is the best team he's had there in a couple years. And Bobby Petrino is the offensive coordinator, one of the better offensive minds in all of college football. So it's Petrino versus Josh Heupel. You know there's going to be points. You know there's going to be really good play calls. Right now they come in, they average 35.8. They throw for 300.4. They run for 212. Solid defensive play, giving up 20.2. This is a good Arkansas team. They could take it to the fourth quarter, but I think Tennessee has the firepower to score when they need to score in the second half. Game is close first half, but Tennessee's physicality and their up-tempo spread air raid offense is what makes the difference. They win this one 34-20. I have faith that Josh Heupel gets that offense rolling second half. The second to last game we're going to look at 7:30 p.m. on NBC. Number 10, Michigan. 4-1 versus 3-2 Washington Huskies. Washington, a 57.8% chance to win this game. They are 1.5-point favorites. They are the favorite team, and the over-under is 41.5. Michigan's a top 10 team. I do in no way believe they are a top 10 team, but that's where they're ranked right now. Just to show how little faith I have in that, they're number 10, and they're the underdog to a 3-2 Washington team. So absolutely nobody has faith that Michigan is really a top 10 team. That's just where they are because they haven't had their losses yet. This is a talented roster, but they are awful on offense. This team cannot throw the ball to save their life. They have 2 quarterbacks, Warren and Orji. Both of them are awful. Both of them cannot throw accurately past 5 yards. Right now, they're averaging 24.8. 123 passing yards, 195 rushing yards. Solid defense, giving up 21.4. The defense is actually better than that. It's just the offense can't get first down. So they're on the field the whole game. They have to get something figured out on the offensive side. Mullings is having a great season running the ball. He cannot carry this team. He carried them through the Trojans game. That's not going to work versus the Penn States, the Ducks, the Buckeyes. This is a deep conference. They have to get the offensive issues figured out. Washington is actually an under-the-radar, very competitive team. Right now, they average 25.2 points a game. They throw for 306.6. They run for 173.2. And great defensive play, giving up 12.4 points per game. This team can play solid defense. They're at home. Their quarterback is Will Rogers, the transfer from Mississippi State. He played 4 years as a starter in the SEC. He's played top 10 defenses before. He's an experienced veteran. He's not going to panic. If he has the ball last, he can make some plays. The guy's going to be calm, cool, collected. Jeff Fish is the head coach. He's a great coach. He's the one coming over from Arizona. This is basically a rematch of the national championship, but these teams don't look anything like the 2 teams that faced last season. He is rebuilding the roster, but it's the Will Rogers factor that can make the difference. And Washington's defense keeping the run game, because this is a game to me that's probably going to come down to field goals. Who's going to have the most field goals? I could see these teams having 4 to 5 field goals each. I have Michigan ultimately winning this one, 20-17. But when it's that close and that sloppy and it's a trench warfare deciding game, this one can go either way. This is the team that I think needs to be the most on upset alert is Michigan, but I actually have the upset going Vegas side, and I have Michigan winning it 20-17. The final game we're going to take a look at is our late game at 10:30 p.m. on ESPN. That's right, 10:30. We have our college game day game number 8, Miami Hurricanes 5-0 undefeated, traveling all the way from South Florida all the way to the West Coast to play 3-1 Cal. Miami has a 71.7% chance to win this game. They are 10-point underdogs. The over-under is 53.5. The reason Miami's on upset alert is not because of their close win versus Virginia Tech last week. Sorry, guys. I thought that was an incomplete pass. So I do think that the right call was made. Miami's secondary has a lot of issues. They've had issues for the last several weeks, but as we're getting into ACC play, competition's getting better. There's going to be teams that can extort that. So we need to get better play out of the secondary. After this, Miami has a bye week. Cristobal has to focus on that secondary. But the reason they're on upset alert is because they're traveling from Southeast Florida all the way to California. This game kicks off at, well, it starts at 10:30. It's probably going to kick off around 10:40, 10:45. It's not going to be over to 2 to 3 a.m. Eastern time. How does the jet lag and the time difference affect the Miami Hurricanes? That's the issue here. Cal has a solid defense. If they keep this game close, Miami could just kind of be a little off this weekend, and this game could be close. And if it's close, it could come down to a field goal to end the game. Right now, Miami, though, is extremely talented. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 15 defense. They're averaging 49.4 points a game, 399.6 passing yards, 193 rushing yards. They're only giving up 15 a game. They have a top 10 rush defense. They have a top 10 offensive line. They've only given up 5 sacks. They have a top 10 defensive line. They're top 10 in sacks, like I just said. Secondary still has some issues, but they're loaded. Cameron Ward, Martinez, Lyle, Fletcher, Arroyo, Williams, Restrepo, Horton, George. There's weapons up and down this field, up and down this team. Their saving grace is Ward and Martinez are both from the Pac-12. They're from the West Coast. They've played Cal before. They've played at Cal. The time is not going to matter to them. But Cal, they average 23 per game, but it's their defense only giving up 12.8. Them at home, the time difference could put Miami on upset alert. But I do have Miami winning this one, 38-16, avoiding the upset, covering the spread here, going with the over. I think Miami's aggressive defensive line is what makes a difference because Cal's offensive line is atrocious. They're going to get sacks. They're going to get pressures. Cal might be able to stand up for them for 1 or 2 quarters, but 4 quarters is going to be really rough, really tiring. I have Miami winning it. So that's our breakdown, our 7 teams that need to be on upset alert for week 6 of the college football season. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you have any comments on these games or anything else, drop it below and I'll respond.